Okay, if you were to go out and ask the many successful musicians who've found the holy grail of success, I mean the ultimate nirvana of stardom, and ask them what was the most enjoyable part of being successful, over 90% of them would probably tell you that the journey was at least half the fun. Of course, the big house and the fancy cars are all great, but when you've made it, right? So if getting there is half the fun, then right now, where you are right now is probably going to be some of the moments that you cherish long into your life. And you're going to want them to be as special as they can be, right? So knowing that, then don't you think it's worth it to put as much of an effort as you can possibly muster into making this music business thing your pride and joy? I mean, I know you're serious or you wouldn't be here with me right now working on making your career better, and I congratulate you on that. But did you know that 80% of people who invest in books only read 30% of the book that they spend their good money on? And I don't want that to be you with this particular course. So I'm challenging you to push through the remainder of this course with an open mind and a positive outlook, and remember that the challenge, and that would be the plugging to get the gigs, the rehearsals, the phone calls, and the hard work it takes to find success, is what most successful musicians and entertainers in the world remember the most. When they had nothing, and they would do whatever it took to make money to put the rent or to put food on the table. And you're probably there right now, trying to find time to rehearse, get together as a band to polish your songs and write new material when you get a chance. Just beginning, or maybe you're in the process of understanding each other's ways and the differences of each other's personality and how you all fit together and getting a feel for your band's chemistry. You're constantly working on getting more gigs and finding bigger and better places to take your show on the road, trying to find your way into the local music scene, or you're trying to push your gigging circle regionally or maybe even nationally. And that's excellent, because no matter what level you're at, whether you're a 3 to 5 year veteran or a brand new band, now's the time to work out the kinks and to get it right. Now is the time to develop or redevelop your talent and get to the point where you can be proud to perform anywhere and really show the world that you're ready to take them on and to be the successful band that you know and I know that you can be. It's time to put the childishness of playing rock star behind you and prepare for the type of band that you really want to be. A professional band, and show that you want to be a professional band, and more importantly, that you have to be a professional band. Right here and now is where you need to decide if you really want to be wildly successful, and if you're really ready to work at this, then you need to be totally ready for that big break phone call, because believe me, if you think that when that call comes in, you can start getting ready to get ready, it's already going to be too late. When that phone rings asking you to headline the big act in town, and you're not ready to blow them away, you're going to be dead in the water. But my imagination tells me that that's not you, because right now you're going to come along and take the plunge and jump in head first to this music business and marketing thing and get your act together starting today. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be here with me right now. You're going to dig in and wrap your head around the steps involved in taking your band from where you are now, and that may be 5 to 10 CDs that you've sold, or even up to 5,000 CDs that you've sold to this point, and you're going to start to increase those numbers in a big way. So how do you do that? Well, the first thing you need to understand in order to leverage your band's value is the art of negotiation. Now, most negotiations work one of two ways. You've got someone selling something, let's say it's a car, and that person is asking for, say, $1,000, just for argument's sake, and there's a buyer who comes along, and he hears the $1,000 and thinks to himself, after looking at the car, how am I going to get this price down to something I'm willing to pay? So the buyer walks around the car and starts looking for damages, and he sees a couple of minor dents, a little bit of rust, and that the tires are almost bald, and he starts to tell the seller that, hey, I'd be willing to pay $700 because of these little imperfections that I found on your car. Now the seller really wants that $1,000, and the buyer really doesn't want to pay any more than $700. That's what he thinks the car is really worth. So if the seller agrees to the $700, he's going to feel cheated because he didn't really get what he wanted for the car. On the other hand, if the seller does what most people do when it comes to negotiations and haggles with the buyer and finally gets him to agree to, let's say, $850, then both parties are going to feel cheated, and that's a lose-lose situation. Why? Because the buyer paid more than what he thought the car was really worth. And the seller's feeling bummed out because he got $150 less than what he really wanted for a car he thinks is worth $1,000. You need to get your head wrapped around this, because this is really important important. Just knowing this little piece of information can probably get you upwards of $200 to $500 more when you book your future gigs, just by using this very simple and very easy technique. Now, let's say that instead of haggling with the buyer, the seller of the car starts to explain all of the things that are included in the sale of the car, like how he just had a complete inspection of the vehicle and that it surpassed all tests and he can provide the documentation. Plus, he's just had a $500 stereo system installed 6 months ago and he's leaving that in the car when he sells it. And about those bald tires, well, those are the all seasons that he uses in the summer, but he's also got 4 3-month-old winter tires with rims included that he's also throwing in at no extra charge. Do you see what just happened here? The seller has now changed the perceived value of the $1,000 car, and the buyer is now thinking that the $1,000 he's about to pay for the car is peanuts for all of the extras that are being thrown in. And now he's excited and he's in a rush to close the deal, so no one else comes in to offer more for the car before he buys it. So what's your band's perceived value? I mean, what is it that you bring to the table when you sell your band to the club owner? How do you negotiate so that both you and the club owner feel that when the deal is made, you're both getting value for whatever it is you agree upon? And my guess is, if you play your cards right and learn this art, you're going to be putting a lot more money into your wallet than the standard $125 that most bands walk away with every time they play. Not only that, you'll probably know that the music business bases its success on repeat business, and you should too. So whenever you can turn a situation into a win-win, it's going to be good for your music business. So how do you bring in bonuses and incentives into your show? We're going to go over the 5 necessary components that you need that are absolutely necessary, and these apply regardless of the type of music you play or whatever genre of music that you're in. Whether you're doing jazz, heavy metal, hip hop, it doesn't matter, techno music. These are the foundations of what it takes to have a successful show. Now, you may already be applying some of these techniques, but I'm going to go over them one by one, and these are the absolute bare necessities that you must have to augment the value of your band. First, there's the props that you may or may not bring to the table. For instance, do you have a light show? And these are really cool, by the way, so if you've got one of those going on, that's fantastic. Video backdrops are always a cool thing to have as well, and basically anything that makes your show unique when the crowd is watching you on stage. Anything that is entertaining and pleasing to the eye during your show. And then of course there's your talent, and what I mean by this is your stage presence. Do you just stand there and play your songs, or are you high energy and lively? Do you get your fans involved? If you're an acoustic act, do you engage your audience and tell stories? Because these things really do make a difference in your perceived value. How many songs do you have in your repertoire? I mentioned that earlier. Are they all originals, or do you do all covers? And again, these things do matter depending on the type of gig that you're playing. And of course, there's that $1,000,000 question: is your band any good? And it better be, or you're just wasting your own and everyone else's time in this music business industry. Then of course there's the venue that you'll be playing in, and this is usually out of the band's hands and is handled by wherever it is that's letting you play. Of course, there are the good old backyard parties that you can put on yourself in rented warehouses, and eventually later on down the road there's going to be talent agents that'll get you into the larger venues at some point in your career. Now, when it comes to actually playing at the gigs, the support staff that you're going to be interacting with can really be key to the success of your show. And these include the people like the front door person, the bartenders and drink servers, the light person, and of course the sound person. More often than not, these are provided by the club or the venue, but if you've got any of them that you can include, these go on your list of bonuses and also add to your value. And finally, there's the promotion. Now, earlier I mentioned that when it comes to success, it's 20% talent and 80% promotion. So you know that this section here is absolutely key. This is where you can really shine if you get it all together and really push this piece of the puzzle. Not only that, if you're really that good, then this is where you can make or break your band. Your promotions will include things like your posters and your flyers, your email blasts and your mailings, your ads, and whatever media contacts you may have, and whatever gets the word out about your band and your shows. So these are 5 essential things that you must have to be handled to perfection for any type of show to get off the ground and have any type of success whatsoever. And if you miss any one of these 5 components, then you can pretty much kiss a successful show goodbye. I mean, you can still put on a show, but you won't have any chance of putting on a seriously successful show if you're missing any one of them. And I'm absolutely serious about this, 100% certain. You might have a show, but believe me, it's not going to be be anything you'd be able to call really successful, and in my book, that means packing the club. So if you can bring in 100 to 200 people, you're probably already effectively applying these 5 particular steps.